So this will be linked in the description. And essentially, after October 1st, the cancellation policy will no longer have the option to have a strict cancellation policy. To bring everyone up to speed, if someone books your place and they have something comes up and they have to cancel and get refunded, then depending on your cancellation policy, they will automatically get a full refund. They may get half a refund or they may get no refund. Of course, you as the host have the option to give a refund even if they don't qualify for it in your cancellation policy. The point is you have control. Now that we've kind of laid the groundwork for what is the cancellation policy and why this would have such a big impact, Federico, in your opinion, like how do you feel about this, and what would you be doing to counter? What's the ultimate way to work around this so that your money isn't affected?
So, at the end of the day, I think the cancellation policy, everybody's been working with the same kind of like strict cancellation policies. And, in every change that we're going to be discussing today, Airbnb it's kind of like guiding the host into best business practices. I'm going to be the devil's advocate today on kind of like speaking on behalf of Airbnb a little bit. But I do see the vision because we do not have like a super strict cancellation policy on every single property. And there is a pricing strategy behind having a more flexible cancellation policy, especially considering that most of the markets right now are working with a very short booking window where a lot of bookings are coming last minute. So having a more flexible cancellation policy can be something positive for your performance because people are more willing to book knowing that they can cancel. And at the same time, I don't know if you notice this, but it's very common that when you get a last minute book cancellation, you get a new booking because you get bumped in the algorithm. That's not confirmed, but it's a theory that I've seen happening over and over again. But I just wanted to think about this. I think a lot of hosts are very Airbnb centric. But if you're working with other platforms, you've already been through this. Like if you work with Booking.com, for example, most of the cancellation policies are going to be 1 day or like extremely flexible, and then you can offer a 10% discount for more restrictive, non-refundable options. So I don't see a big issue here. I just feel like people need to adapt and work their pricing around it to make the most out of it. Because the change is coming. At the end of the day, it's coming. And again, if you feel like this is not working for you, you can diversify to channels that have the pros and cons. But again, a lot of these channels also have similar policies. So it's just catching up with what the market is.
So you're kind of saying that Airbnb has been a dinosaur in this regard, and the other OTAs have been working with what Airbnb is changing to anyway. So now that Airbnb is finally changing, you need to adapt with the market because you would need to be doing this on the other platforms anyway.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like I was thinking about this today for another reason, but Airbnb kind of like democratized the access to being a host and short-term rental where anyone with a property can access, right? Because back in the day, setting up a VRBO account, Booking.com account, it was pretty challenging. Like, if you listen to anyone that was on VRBO, which was the first OTA for short-term rentals, basically you'll connect with people on the phone, like leads, and then you'll make a booking manually, like I'm taking, a card over the phone or a check or something like that. So what Airbnb did, it was kind of like, again, make it accessible for everybody. And by making it accessible for everybody, it had to put out those safe rails or wall rails to make it simple for people when it comes to payments, when it comes to cancellation policies, when it comes to all of these things that we're discussing right now. But over time, it became also a constraint because Airbnb becoming a synonymous of short-term rentals and going live with an IPO, now Airbnb gets hit in all ways, and now they have a board they had to reply to and be responsible, right? So I just feel like they're making changes to kind of like be in the same level of all OTAs, and also make sure that they're replying to their shareholders, which is what drives a lot of these decisions right now.
Nicely put. Fun story. What you said about the cancellation policies, I actually learned this the hard way very, very, very early on. Um, I think the cancellation policies play a bigger role when you start getting above 1 bedroom apartments, like 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom houses. And I'm dealing in studio apartments and 1 bedrooms. And I remember on YouTube, the biggest thing is everyone was always saying, "You always have a strict cancellation policy. Always has to have a strict cancellation policy." So I launched my first property, my first apartment, and it wasn't getting any bookings. And I was
Yeah.
wondering, like, did I not take the photos right? Like, is there something else wrong? And it went like 2 days without getting anything. And remember, this is a new listing. And back then, if you have a new listing, Airbnb is going to basically push it to the top to try and give it a fair chance to get some steam. No bookings. So I decided to change it from strict to modern. And I
Hmm.
did it that morning. I went to go get my hair cut at the barbershop. And while I was getting my hair cut, first booking came in.
Yeah. 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 And you also need to understand like who. I think when it comes to operating a short-term rental, especially when we have 1, 2 units, and I see this mistake happening pretty often, you gotta like have a vision tunnel where you only see your property and you don't see what who you're competing with. And then some people take an extra step to say, well, let's see the other 1 bedroom apartments in my building or my block or my neighborhood. You're competing with hotels. And hotels have flexible cancellation policies. Again, a couple coming to the city for a concert, a business traveler coming for a meeting Wednesday and Thursday, you are checking like people are not shopping only on Airbnb and seeing your listing. They're shopping in multiple places. They're shopping Airbnb, they may be shopping VRBO, they may be shopping Booking.com, they may be shopping Google, and they are bombarded with a lot of options. And then people decide, okay, I want to stay on Airbnb because I want to have like a private kitchen, right? But again, honestly, when I travel with my wife, we mostly stay in hotels because I can use my credit card points and I know that I'm gonna get consistency, which is something that Airbnb lacks many times, right? I don't know how you're gonna check in, if there's gonna be responsible, how's the neighborhood, and stuff like that. But you're competing with that when it comes to a studio 1 bedroom apartment. So you have to operate like that. And to give you one example, kind of like touching that area, I have 2 properties I manage in downtown Fort Worth. I'm one of the few who does 1 nights on the weekends, and we are top of the market because I'm charging a premium. Because if you go to Airbnb and you search 2 nights, like checking in on Friday, checking out on Sunday in downtown Fort Worth, you're gonna have like 100 apartments available. And then you narrow down the search to Friday to Saturday or Saturday to Sunday, and then you have 3 apartments available, 4 or 5. Those apartments are available that weekend because basically, again, you can check in for the entire weekend, but you have a minimum stay of 2 nights. You are kind of like limiting yourself in the number of searches that are going to show up. If you're doing 1 night stays, because I have a hotel next door, another around the corner, that is my competition. People coming to have dinner, romantic getaways on the weekends, sport events, going to the bus hall, whatever it is. I can charge a premium because if I want to stay on an Airbnb, I'm one of the few availables, right? But again, because I understand that my competition is not just narrowed to other short-term rentals doing Friday through Sunday, I'm also competing with hotels. And because I'm one of the few short-term rentals offering that, I can charge a premium. So
Nice. I like how you kind of shared the fact that the cancellation policy, having the right perspective, plays a big role in that. Because you could be doing everything you just mentioned, but what if you had that strict cancellation policy, and that literally could be what's stopping someone from booking?
yeah,
But in fact, you might not even appear because they're using a filter that filters out people with strict cancellation policies.
correct. Yeah, I mean, people do search by cancellation policies. And same thing. It's like, hey, we're thinking about going this weekend. We're not sure. I'm still waiting to see if I score tickets, if I get my flights, and all this and that. So again, it's very important that you put yourself in the consumer behavior. Plan yourself a trip, right? normally a lot of people search for the accommodation last minute, or after they get everything else. Like you get your flights first because flights tend to be pretty expensive last minute. You get your tickets if you're going to an event, and then kind of accommodation tends to be last, which is kind of like why we're seeing a lot of last minute bookings. Now, if in the middle of searching everything, I'm already checking. Let's put it this way, right? I'm checking. Hey, I'm gonna go to Dallas this weekend for an event. Um, Let me see what is the average of the hotels and Airbnbs plus if I can get tickets and everything. If I see a hotel or an Airbnb that's telling me, hey, you can book now and cancel until the day before, I can already pre-book that. I'm gonna have a secure place that then I can say if I keep it or not. But because a person already made a commitment, then if you do a good job with your customer service and communication, maybe that person says, hey, that the host is actually nice, I'll keep this reservation. Why go and find another thing? Which is something I listen other people talking about, which is put a flexible cancellation policy, take the time to build a relationship and rapport with your guest, and you're gonna keep the reservation. You have a large house, call them. Anything I can do for you? Do you want to, I don't know, get groceries before you arrive, something like that? You build a rapport, people keep the booking because they build a connection. When I was in the airline industry, it was the same thing, right? The airline, based on DOT, you have two options. You can either let people do a 24-hour hold and then within 24 hours cancel the booking, or book instantly, but you have 24 hours to get a full refund. But kind of like the strategy and the discussion always been around what do you prefer and what's going to make the most retention once people put their credit card. And that's kind of like the idea why, in my case, when I was at American, they changed from 24-hour hold to charging and then 24-hour refund. Because once you put the credit card, had a commitment, you either forget that you have it, you forgot that the cancellation policy is already non-refundable, or you say, hey, I already put my credit card, I want to call again, or whatever it is, I should keep it, right? So everything that we're discussing today is consumer behavior and psychology. So we just need to play with that. It's like, what are people thinking and processing and the emotions that they have when they're finding their property and making the purchase decision. So
Nice.
that's my TED talk.
Well, I'll say this, then we'll move on to Mike. But I find it baffling, and I found this like most people know that this channel, yeah, that this channel actually in particular started off as being a gig economy channel. While I was driving like Uber and Lyft back in the day, and I was baffled at the amount of people who started driving, but they actually never took a Uber or Lyft before, and then they wonder why their star rating is like a 4.6, which gets them in danger of getting kicked off the platform. You haven't experienced it from the other end and know what a bad Uber driver is and what a good one is. But the same thing kind of applies with Airbnb. Like, why don't you actually book a few stays with some hosts and just evaluate your experience and know what it's like, the user experience. So when you're a host, you'll actually have some foundation to work from. That's why I made that determination about the okay, this strict stuff isn't working because I had already tried Airbnb as a customer beforehand. Yeah.
100%.
But yeah, Mike. So how do you feel about this cancellation policy essentially going away soon? And what are some things that hosts can do to adapt to this new situation?
I think, I mean, kind of going back to the psychology conversation from the host perspective, it's causing a shift on our mindset as well, which should happen, but I think a lot of people aren't used to. And that's essentially, not counting your eggs in the basket before they hatch, right? A lot of people are very comfortable with having the quote unquote guaranteed money of a locked in reservation or booking because they know that the cancellation policy has went into effect as opposed to not, right? And when they lack the education and knowledge around pricing and revenue management and everything else that Federico's talking about, then they lose the opportunity when they do get that booking canceled to then recoup a new reservation in that short, small window, right? So I think that's something that a lot of people are probably wrestling with mentally, that they're going to have to adapt to. Uh, which, as Federico mentioned, if you've been on other platforms, you've been exposed to that. and you have been groomed to kind of have that position for your portfolio. And I get it. It's really difficult if you've got, one, two, maybe three units because, hey, this is all I have. I'm not like a, hotel or whatnot to where I can just shift things around. I know, Federico, you have some stuff in different markets.
Yeah.
A lot of our stuff is here in the same market, so we do have a little bit more flexibility to kind of play Tetris, if you will. If there's availability to switch people from property to property, for whatever reason, whether it's last minute or even in advance. But a lot of people don't have that flexibility, and the fear around, well, where is that money going to come from when I have rent to pay or mortgage to pay or whatever that is for those properties. So I think that's where a lot of the fear comes into play on the host side. But adaptability is something, and it's going to continue to happen, right? There's going to be other changes that we're not, maybe privy to or agree with on the Airbnb side that will happen next year. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be something. I guarantee you. Every year it's something, right? And so going with that mindset and adaptability, I mean, a rising tide raises all ships. So, that same change is happening to everybody. It's just not you, right? And so think about it from that perspective as well. I know we're going to get to the flat rate change for PMS in a moment, but yeah, I think adaptability is really key. And I think if you're a new host or even a seasoned host, continuing to have that mentality is super beneficial.